morning, everyone. It's Mrs. Thomas, Principal of Quince Orchard High School, and I'm so excited to celebrate and learn from our Asian American Pacific Islander community. I want to thank our staff and students for contributing to make this a reality, because this is our first Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Assembly ever. So this is an important milestone, an important turning point, and I have to acknowledge the fact that there is so much going on in our country right now, and we need to understand and make spaces to talk and learn about our traditions and our culture from our AAPI students, staff, and community, and acknowledge that the violence that's happening against our AAPI student, staff, and honestly community is not acceptable. So thank you. I'm very, very proud of the diverse community, and I want to continue to recognize, celebrate, and show how much we value each and every one of you. So thank you. Have a great day, and remember what I'm always going to say: we can't hide our Cougar pride.
Good morning, Quince Orchard students and staff. I'm so excited for all of you to view our first annual Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month Assembly. Today, it's my great honor to introduce Maryland's First Lady, Yumi Hogan. Ms. Hogan is the first Korean American First Lady in the United States. She is also a first-generation Korean American, an accomplished artist, and an adjunct professor at the Maryland Institute College of Art. Thank you so much for joining us today, First Lady Yumi Hogan.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Yumi Hogan, the First Lady of Maryland. I want to thank Quince Orchard High School for organizing a virtual Asian Pacific Americans Heritage Month celebration and inviting me to speak to your students. Before the First Lady of Maryland, I am an artist and a teacher. I want to applaud your efforts to educate all students and share the importance of diversity, inclusion, and share the histories as the first Asian American First Lady in Maryland. I want the students to know that you should be proud of who you are and where you came from. During this month, please learn about the challenges and the sacrifice previous generations went through to create the new opportunities for all of us. America is a nation of immigrants. Differences among us do not separate us, but they make us stronger. And that's where the power of this country comes from. I believe you will be great leaders for our community, state, and the country. Please be the ones with connect different cultures and the people. Given the recent increase of crimes against Asian Americans, it is more important than ever to work together for a safer and a better tomorrow. We should work together, support, and love each other. We must learn, understand, enjoy, and appreciate different cultures. It is not just for Asian Americans, but for all. Let's stand together to be the change. And please stay healthy and safe. Thank you.
Now, we're happy to welcome our first guest speaker. Russell Mark is a USA Swimming's high performance manager, helping US swimmers on the national and global stage swim faster.
Hello, Quince Orchard High School. My name is Russell Mark, and I'm so thankful to be a part of this Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Assembly. I think it's so cool that you guys are doing this, and thank you so much to Mrs. Lee for asking me to be a part of it. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm originally from New York City. I went to high school with Mrs. Lee, and now I live in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I work at the Olympic Training Center for USA Swimming, and what I do is I work with our Olympic swim team. I work with all the best swimmers in the country and in the world. So just the ones from your area that you might know, Michael Phelps, I work with him since he was 16 years old. And Katie Ledecky, I've known her since she was 15 and have watched her win so many Olympic medals, and hopefully she'll win a bunch more this summer. Outside of my work, I love being in Colorado. I do all the Colorado things. So in the wintertime, I'm skiing and snowboarding as much as possible. And in the summertime, I'm hiking as much as possible. There's a trail that goes 500 miles across the state of Colorado. And a couple years ago, I did that for 28 days straight. I camped and I hiked every day for 28 days. So I love being outside. It's interesting because if you knew my name, Russell Mark, and you knew the activities I love to do, and you knew the job that I have working with the U.S. Olympic swim team, but you didn't know what I look like, I know that they're surprised that I'm an Asian guy. I'm 100% Chinese. My mom was born in China and moved here when she was 8 years old. My dad is first generation Chinese American. I grew up swimming in New York City. I swam collegiately at the University of Virginia, but I've never been more aware of my race until moving out to Colorado and working with people all around the country in this sport. You look at our Olympic team, and generally they're Caucasian. And I've had to work my entire career to prove to people that I belong here, to defy the expectations that someone that looks like me can be really good at working with people in swimming. And I think my point being is that you don't know what you have in common with people just based on what they look like. But obviously, there's so many ways that people can be different. It just so happens that one of the differences about me is one that you could see. And I think that's what the challenge is. It's learning what those differences are and not making fun of it. The harder thing and the more important thing is to learn about what those differences are. I want people to know that I'm Chinese and what Chinese Americans in this country have been through, even though I want you to accept me for also being this outdoorsman and for loving sports and for working in sports. Obviously, with everything we've been through this year, I've never had to be more aware of my race in my everyday life and in my job than this year. And I've also never been more proud of it. And for what I do, as we move into an Olympics this summer, I know you're going to end up cheering for people that look different from you because we're wearing the red, white, and blue. And that, I think, is what's one of the coolest things about sport, is that when we're racing in a pool, when you're running around the track, when you're shooting the basketball, when you're scoring goals, if you have U.S. flag on you, we are one team. And I do wish that carried over socially as well, that carried over to what we do in everyday life. And I shouldn't have to wear these colors and this flag in order for people to treat me the same. So thank you so much for having me. I'm excited for you guys. I'm excited for you guys being leaders in this country and in your school and in your community. So thank you so much, and go USA, and good luck.
QO is a very diverse community with people of all different backgrounds, and we're so happy to see people being accepting of one another. Here are a couple thoughts from our very own QO staff and students.
Hi, my name is Lauren. I'm a senior at Quince Orchard High School, and I'm Chinese.
My name is Mei-Ling Chu. I'm a Chinese teacher at Quince Orchard High School. I came from Taiwan with my family, and I'm an Asian American.
Hello, I am Fred Kim, or Coach Kim. I am a special education teacher here at Quince Orchard High School. I'm also the defensive coordinator and linebackers coach for the varsity football team. My nationality is Korean, 100%. My parents immigrated here back in the late 60s, both coming from Korea.
Hi, bonjour. I'm Miss Yu and I teach French at QO. I grew up in the US, but most of my extended family lives in Taiwan.
Hello everyone, my name is Rashmi Thai and I'm an Indian American freshman at QO. Right now I'm wearing a traditional Indian garment called the sharwani. It is predominantly used and worn during special occasions. My family is from South India, from a state called Kerala.
Hi, my name is Ella. I'm a student and I'm half Chinese.
My name is Kunal Arora. I am the teacher of the Audio Visual Media Communications Pathway program. It's a signature program that you should sign up for. My parents were born in New Delhi, India. They moved to America in the 70s with a couple $100 and a suitcase, and I can't even imagine what that was like to uproot everything for a dream of a brighter future.
I'm proud of Chinese culture because China has more than 5,000 years of history. It is one of the oldest civilizations in the world.
My favorite part about my culture is that everyone's very hardworking and goal-oriented. Another thing I love is that everyone is very supportive of their family and really supportive of each other, especially during difficult times.
One of the things I'd like to highlight about Indian culture especially is that it's collectivist, and that's really important when we think about how we are serving our community and helping our neighbors. We could use more of that.
Get into a timeline of Asian American history. Starting off, we have the arrival of Filipinos in 1763, and the first recorded settlement of Filipinos was actually established in New Orleans. And next we have the first recorded settlement of South Asians in the United States when Indians arrived in 1790. And then moving on, we have the Page Act of 1875. The Page Act was the first federal immigration law in the United States, which essentially prohibited the immigration of Chinese women because they were seen as disease-carrying prostitutes. And this also ties back to the Atlanta shootings that just happened in March, where 6 out of 8 victims were Asian women.
And then we can go on to the Chinese Exclusion Act. This federal law was signed on May 6, 1882, that suspended all immigration of Chinese laborers for 10 years, and it halts for 60 years. And then after Pearl Harbor, President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066. Japanese Americans were given 1 week to pack their belongings into two suitcases and report to the authorities. 117,000 of those who were at least 1/16 Japanese were spread out into 10 camps. Fairgrounds and racetracks were converted into camps. Horse stables were also used as homes. No Americans of German and Italian descents were interned. Japanese and Peruvians were also relocated. And then we go on to the 442nd Regimental Combat Team. Their motto was "Go for Broke." They were the most decorated unit in the entire U.S. military history for its size and length of serving. The 442nd Regimental Combat Unit fought for America, even though their families were interned in the Japanese internment camps. And then the first Asian Pacific American was elected into Congress on January 3rd, 1957.
K-pop has grown to become a global sensation, and we just so happen to have our very own K-pop dance group here at QO. Let us welcome LMC, bringing to us a dance from Twice, I Can't Stop Me, KDA, Pop Stars, and BTS, Mic Drop.
I know it's too late. 난 소 부른 나 다 알고 있잖아. with this. Come and run again. You want a dose of this? Right now it's KD8. I'm a goddess with a blaze. 소리처럼 내 이름 잊지 못하게 loud, 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 loud. I could take you to the top. 절대 멈추지 못해. 내가 끝내주는 bad gal, gal, gal. And when I start to talk that, oh, you know how to react. I'm a picture perfect face with that wild in my veins. You can hear it in my glow, 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 glow. So keep your eyes on me now. 무엇을 보든 좋아할 거야. 다 할 수 없는 배vo. 나와 되길 원한 늘 확신해. We got it all in our hands now. So can you handle what we're all about? We're so tough. Let's get it, show you out. Can you feel the rush now? Ain't nobody bringing us down, 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 down. They could try, but we gonna wear the crown. You could go another round, 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 round. Wish you luck, but you're not bringing us down. Go hard, till we get it, we go hard. We so in it, we pop stars. Only winning, winning now. Ain't nobody bringing us down, 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 down.
Growing up in Maryland, there were some Asians at my school, but not very many. I had pretty diverse classmates, so I didn't feel like I stuck out a lot. Ironically, in first grade, when I brought one of my favorite foods for lunch, it was an Asian kid who wrinkled her nose and said, "It smells like the trash can." I was offended, but I didn't know what to do. At least I didn't get into a fight.
Going to elementary school, I didn't really see many people who looked like me. But when I went to middle school, that all changed. I met a ton of other Asians and Indians, and it was great because we were able to connect on a deeper and different level due to our shared cultural experiences.
I have a lot of stories of stereotypes. Even being called a model minority is insulting and unfair. Growing up, there was a strong emphasis on education, but only as a means to becoming a doctor or an engineer. Otherwise, so I'm doing great.
In my experience, I definitely have felt stereotyped as an Asian. People expect me to act a certain way and like certain things, and when I don't really follow that narrative, many people are surprised.
I've been called slurs. I've experienced direct explicit racism and indirect implicit racism, and it sucks. It's not fun. What I learned is that you can't fight fire with fire. It doesn't work. You can only educate the ignorant, and if you can't, you have to ignore the BS and be the bigger person.
So just to elaborate on it a bit more, it's the stereotype that all Asian Americans are successful and thrive despite experiencing any sort of anti-Asian American racism. And it's problematic for three reasons. The first being that it ignores the role that selective recruitment of highly educated Asian immigrants has played in the success of Asian Americans as we perceive it in the United States. Second, it also makes a flawed comparison between Asian Americans and other racial groups, especially Black Americans, and argues that racism can be overcome by hard work and strong family values. And then third, it overlooks the diversity within the Asian American Pacific Islander communities and the issues that affect different populations within the umbrella term of the community.
Next, we wanted to feature some of the racism and stereotypical propaganda about Asian Americans in U.S. history.
As you can see, Asian women are fetishized and being used as sexual objects. On the other hand, you see Asian men portrayed as monsters for taking away the white man's job or being hung. The propaganda examples illustrates Asian Americans as the enemy or tokens in Hollywood.
Now we would like to introduce you to Connie Lee, an Asian American reporter and producer at CGTN America, who will be sharing some of her experiences growing up as an Asian American and the importance of showcasing Asian American talents.
Hello, Quince Orchard High School. My name is Connie Lee. I work as a reporter-producer at CGTN America in Washington, D.C. I am so honored to be a part of your AAPI assembly this year. So, I have a question for you. Where are you from? Like, where are you really from? Now, to many of you, this may seem like a very simple, easy question. But to me, this question is a bit complicated. Why? Because most of the times when people ask me this, they're not satisfied with my truthful answer. Where am I from? I was born in the suburbs of Chicago. Where am I really from? Okay, I spent most of my life in Maryland. But usually these are not the answers they're looking for. What they're really asking is, what is your ethnic background? And the answer to that, I am Korean American. Today, I celebrate my Korean American heritage, but to be honest, it took me some time to really embrace and understand my identity as an Asian American. I struggled with the idea that people saw me more as a foreigner because of the color of my skin or from the shape of my eyes. Growing up, I felt split with my identity. Am I more American because I loved eating pizza for dinner and enjoyed watching fireworks on the 4th of July? Or am I actually more Korean because I take my shoes off in my house and like speaking Korean to my parents? I thought I had to be one or the other. I didn't realize that I can be equally both. My identity is not solely tied to my ethnic heritage, but it is made up of many parts, like my beliefs, my experiences, my values, and what I do. But I have to say my ethnic background does make up a big part of who I am today. One part of my identity is that I am a journalist. I love telling stories from all over the world and offer different perspectives on a variety of issues. My upbringing as an Asian American makes me a better storyteller because I have more empathy to those who feel different or marginalized. And as a journalist, I also have the opportunity to give a voice to those who feel unheard and share stories of those who are underrepresented, like Asian Americans. That's one reason why I created a special network series called Asian and American. I wanted to highlight a diverse group of Asian American individuals who are making an impact in their respective industries. And they're not only passionate about what they do, but they also embrace their identity as an Asian American and the adversity they face because of it. They recognize how their cultural values and upbringing have shaped who they are today. We can say how others see us doesn't really matter, but the reality is it can have a big effect on our personal lives. One example is a recent rise in attacks against Asians in the US because of the way they look. And as an Asian American, I am hopeful, though, that the rallies and protests from these incidents will lead to greater understanding and discussions about the discrimination and stereotypes that exist. Because knowing they exist makes it easier to correct them. So where am I from? Yes, I'm from the suburbs of Chicago. But also as an Asian American, I am proud to have come from my Korean immigrant family. Happy Asian American and Pacific Islander Month.
The recent hate crimes against Asians have been very disturbing, and my aunt in LA has actually experienced them firsthand. I have not, so I feel really lucky to live in such a diverse area where I don't have to experience those issues.
It has been pretty devastating to see the recent hate crimes that have been happening to Asian Americans. Some of the videos have been horrifying and absolutely devastating to see that those are happening. But It's sad to say that these are not new occurrences. These have been happening since Asians immigrated here since the 1800s. So I guess with the advent of social media, it's allowed the hate crimes to be exposed more frequently than one might actually think that occurs. It always has happened, and to me, as I said, it's devastating. It's sad to see that human beings treat each other like such, especially innocent ones, and attacking older and weaker adults, grandparents. That could have been any one of our parents or grandparents, and it's devastating to see. I'm hoping to see changes and through education and a great spirit and hope, we can see change occur.
My thoughts on the recent hate crimes against Asians is that it's really close to my heart, and it's really sad to see these people being beaten up over something that's not true and not their fault. It's really hard to think about this happening to someone in my family or even someone that I know, near or far.
We should treat people with respect and dignity and empathy. We should seek to make the world a more equitable, fair, and just place, regardless of, where people are from, what they look like, what language they speak. That's irrelevant. We should also recognize that it is a privilege to learn about racism instead of experiencing it firsthand. And if you haven't experienced it firsthand, you should listen to the people who are willing to share their trauma. But you shouldn't rely on it as your education either. You're responsible for your education. You shouldn't put that burden on people belonging to oppressed or underrepresented groups. That's just lazy.
Because I know a lot of Asian Americans, such as myself, get asked the question, where are you really from? And in honor of Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, my mom bought me this shirt from Asian American Girls Club that says, "I'm from here." And I just thought this was a very powerful and awesome statement, and I thought it was just so cool. Anyways, yeah, thank you so much for watching.
Asian art has a large role in expressing traditions and personal stories, which can create very powerful messages. Quince Orchard's very own Vivian Cao is going to give us insight on Asian art and what it means to be an Asian American artist.
Hey guys, my name is Vivian. I'm currently a senior at QO, and I was born in Beijing, so I'm Chinese American. And I'm going to school for art next year at Rhode Island School of Design, so I thought I'd show you guys some of the pieces that I've made for my portfolio and so on that have to do with my culture. The main two styles of Chinese art traditionally are gongbi, which is a more realistic, detailed style, and xieyi, which is a more impressionist, abstract style. The first piece that I have, I made when I was really young in elementary school. It's in the style of xieyi, so it's not as realistic. And you can tell I made it when I was a little bit younger, the writing isn't neat or anything like that. But it's depicting Chinese New Year or Spring Festival, which is Lunar New Year. The words on the side are 过年, which means New Year. The next piece that I have is this, which is some kind of melon. We call them 丝瓜 in Chinese. And this is also in the impressionistic style. As you can see, it's not as detailed. There's a lot of broad brushstrokes. This is an example of gongbi. So it's a lot more detailed. You can tell that the cats are in a lot finer detail, although there are some still impressionistic elements, like around here. It's still considered gongbi. It's just some cats playing. There's a lot of nature elements in a lot of Asian art, which I like. The next piece that I have is this one. So I made this for my college portfolio around a couple months ago, and it was kind of my first exploration into ink, but I do have some collage elements along with some charcoal and paint. The idea is immigration. I immigrated here when I was 5 years old, and it's like a little girl looking out of the plane window at what was to come, and there's Chinese newspapers that I used to collage the back to represent a change going forward into what's in the window. You can find a more detailed version on my Instagram here. So the final piece that I have is one that I did around a week ago, a couple days ago, and it is this. So I made this for a Korean unity contest. I did a lot of research for this about North Korean, South Korean division and the DMZ and all that. And it shows two separated family members coming back together to show a peaceful reunion. And I used, on the side of the North Koreans, I used the North Korean national flower, and on the South Korean side, I used the South Korean national flower. And I actually did both of them in the xieyi style. So yeah, that's all of the pieces that I have. I hope you learned something about Chinese art and Asian-inspired art. Happy Asian American Pacific Islander Month. These are our Asian American Pacific Islander spotlights. Vera Wong. She's one of the very first Asian American fashion designers. She also owns a very successful bridal brand / shop. She's won many awards, including these written here. Dr. Sanjay Gupta is a neurosurgeon, medical reporter, and writer. He's an inspiration for many prospective doctors and students, and he's best known for his position with CNN as a chief medical correspondent. Anna May Wong was an American actress and considered to be the first Chinese-American Hollywood movie star. Rich Brian is an Indonesian rapper who's currently 21 years old and born in Jakarta, Indonesia. He wants to inspire many young Asian Americans to reach their goals. Nora Lum, also known as Aquafina, was born to a Chinese-American father and a Korean-American mother. She's an actress, comedian, rapper, author, and television host. Yuri Kochiyama was a Japanese-American activist who fought against racial profiling of South Asians, Arabs, and Muslims after 9/11. She was an activist and community leader. She supported the expansion of ethnic studies programs and participated in Asian American movements. Patsy Mink was a Japanese-American woman who became the first Asian American woman to serve the United States Congress. Yo-Yo Ma is an American cellist who was born in Paris, France to Chinese parents. He was a child prodigy and began performing at the age of 4.5. Lucy Liu is an Asian American actress and director. She is best known for her roles in Kill Bill Volume 1 and Charlie's Angels. And finally, Bruce Lee was a successful martial artist, martial arts instructor, actor, director, and philosopher. He changed the way Asian Americans and other people of color were portrayed in American films. That's it for our spotlights. I hope you enjoyed this video.
I'd like to take this time to thank all of our Quince Orchard High School students and staff for viewing our first Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month Assembly. We also want to give a special thanks to our guest speakers, First Lady Yumi Hogan, Russell Mark, and Connie Lee. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you to our QOHS staff and students who participated and shared their videos with us today, and our AAPI Planning Committee for all of their work to make this possible. We also want to thank our Richard Montgomery High School students who participated and joined us during our joint town hall. And we want to thank our QOHS principal, Beth Thomas, and the administrative team. Please take time during the remainder of your Cougars Connect class to review the resources shared with you by your teacher. Thank you. Have a great day.